So today's talk is entitled Pearls of Wisdom, but unfortunately I don't have any pearls of wisdom, so a little bit false advertising. Sorry about that. But if something does come, something useful, this is the grace of Guru and Goranga. So we pray for their mercy. Everyone here has something in common. And that's not just that everyone's waiting for lunch, something else. What may be in a state of dormancy, a state of slumber in most people in the world, has awoken to a certain degree in every person present here. And that impulse is what's drawing you here today. You may have so many other ideas, and those ideas may also be relatively true, but there's something in you that has broken through the covering of slumber, of sleep. So that is spirit. When spirit wakes up, it's seeking for a deeper truth, a deeper connection to reality. So for some people, that sense of spirit has awoken like a seed germinating from the ground. It's taken root, leaves have developed, the stem has grown, and maybe even moving towards bringing flowers and fruit. And for some people, it may just be just waking up like a dormant seed after the winter when the ice melts, everything thaws, the sun comes out, and the soil temperature begins to warm, then something begins to germinate. So we all have the commonality here that something within us has woken up. So that is spirit. So in modern times, we are so addicted to logic and rationale. And yes, this has its function, it has its place, but we can't understand everything about life and everything about reality just through this faculty of rationale. And we see such a common theme in spiritual traditions around the world that there's many stories. Actually, the main transmission of the teaching is through stories, is through pastimes, through Lila Kata. So, because we're so addicted to logic and rationale in modern times, when we hear these pastimes, when we hear these stories, we think, well, what does it mean? And we try to analyze it from a logical, rational place. And yes, there's lessons from that point of view, but that's not the entirety of the transmission. So if Gurudev is speaking some nice Radha Krishna Katha in Vrindavan, we go to the pastime of that place. You don't usually say, oh well, what does it mean? How can I dissect this with my logical, rational mind? Rather, we try to feel into that. And Joseph Campbell, he has a quote, "A myth is something that never was, but always is." So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, one drop of the ocean of Bhakti Rasa, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he has made such astonishing presentations just from one drop of the ocean of Bhakti Rasa. So he's made a comment that the higher dhams pervade the lower dhams, but the lower dhams don't exist there. And these are planes of Shraddha, planes of faith. So if you have the appropriate faith, the appropriate consciousness, then you can enter into these planes of conscious experience. And this is actually closer to the true reality rather than this fictitious facade that we are most often living. So the stories, the pastimes, they are eternally existing realities. And if you enter into them with your entire being and steep like a tea leaves in a cup of water, then really you can receive a lot more than just dissecting it from your logical, rational mind. So I'd like to start with a little Zen koan. So imagine there's a tree, a large tree, on the edge of a cliff, and you're holding onto this tree, up one branch of the tree sticking out over the cliff, and you're holding onto that branch with your teeth, and your arms are bound behind your back, and your feet are tied together. And if you let go of the branch that you're holding with your teeth, you will fall to your death. And so you're there for quite some time in some distress, naturally. And then along comes an old monk with bright shining eyes and says to you, "Oh, say the one true thing that can save your life." So what is that one true thing? So you can steep in that. We'll come back to that. Bhakti, this path of Bhakti Yoga, it's a path of the heart. Yes, there's philosophy, and as we touched upon last week, the philosophy, the Siddhanta, is profound. But today I won't be giving really much Siddhanta, so you can all relax. So because Bhakti is a path of the heart, then the heart is a place of feeling. It's a place of sensing. So my invitation to you is to sense into what I want to share with you today, to get a deeper experience of it and move just beyond the thinking mind. So also in the from the Zen tradition, there's a saying, before Satori, the trees and mountains are trees and mountains. During Satori, they cease to be. And after Satori, again they are trees and mountains. Satori is their word for enlightenment. So what does this mean? There's three levels going on here. So first, in the beginning, we just take what we observe from our physical sense perception to be the total reality. And we think that's it. So we just want to enjoy and exploit this reality as much as we can for our own enjoyment. And then when we become frustrated at that, then we seek something higher. So if we have some experience on some level, or we have some conception there's something more, then from this place, our seeking is all about getting up and getting out. The world is full of original sin. The world is Maya. So different traditions have their terminology for this, but the main focus is about getting up and getting out. It's a kind of escapism. So if you have some experience of that, like we were talking about last week, certain traditions focus only on the consciousness aspect of the soul. So when we are just fixed upon a transcendent, merging into a transcendence, then the byproduct of that is we want to just dismiss the world, because the world is something very inferior. And yes, this definitely has its place, but it's maybe not so helpful while you're still living in the world to just be operating from that system. The world is full of Maya, the world is full of illusion. It's nice to be able to hold that view, but it's not the entirety of the reality. And also from that vichar, that point of view, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, there's a plane of harmony, a plane of conscious reality where everything is completely perfect. And that plane of harmony actually pervades the entire creation. So that's very nice if you can be connected to that. Because this plane of harmony, this Siddhanta, this philosophy is very, very deep. Like I shared last week, a quote from, I think it was Francis of Assisi, about how God is like the master chess player, and he's arranging everything in your life so perfectly. or he has set up a system that is arranging everything in your life so perfectly. So then if you're having a big cry about what's going on in your life or this or that, you're against God, you're against reality, and you're disconnected with the truth of how this place is. So we are so engaged always in a campaign of resistance to what is. And I'm not sure if you've ever noticed, but this is incredibly draining of your energy, and it's like carrying 10 tons of bricks on your back. If you can just let go and accept what is happening, because whatever is happening, and it is reality. Whether you like it or not, it's the relative reality that's happening. So you can give so much mental commentary about it, and I'm not saying that we need to be happy with what's going on, because a lot of nonsense is going on, but we won't be so empowered to bring about a change if all our energy is getting dissipated through resistance. So it's very helpful to first accept, and then you can be more of a useful tool to help things uplift to a higher level of consciousness. So before Satori, the trees and mountains are trees and mountains. During Satori, they cease to be, because you can go into a transcendent state in meditation, totally disconnected from your body, from your mind. It's Om Shanti, everything's nice there, just totally absorbed in Atma, totally disconnected to all your worldly problems. This is very nice. But then when you come back out of that state, your worldly problems are still there. So to just try to artificially hang out in the plane of transcendence when we're not qualified for that, then there becomes a dislocation between our real world life and our ideas about transcendence. So we want to bring both of them together. So then after that, the trees and mountains once again become trees and mountains. But it's not like in the first level where you think only the physical reality is it. We can say there's an awakening in the head, there's awakening in the heart, and there's awakening at the level of gut. And so the final stage of awakening at the level of gut, I'm not so much talking about a physical locality in the body, but it's about a deep embodiment and integration of the varying interacting levels of reality, and to not be in resistance to them. It's a very nice experience if you can step out of your own resistance to God and life and just try to be in harmony. It's something you can think about. But so we see for the great saints, they are established in transcendental consciousness, but out of grandmotherly compassion, they are wandering all around the earth, being like instruments for God, helping the conditioned souls come out of their illusion. So they are very attentive, and they have such a benevolence towards humanity. They don't need to engage in helping all the conditioned souls in Maya, because they are situated in transcendental consciousness, and the sufferings of this world are not touching them. But out of such heart compassion, then they are helping humanity realize their true spiritual nature and their connection with God. So they're very attentive, just like in the summertime, in a hot country, you may have a flower in a planter pot, and every day you have to water that and take care of it very nicely. So with such compassion, the merciful teachers, the gurus, they are going here and there, and for those souls willing to accept, putting some water on our flower, so gradually we can bloom. So also today, I want to look at some of the reasons, some of the obstacles on our spiritual path. Because it's all very well having a very high transcendental philosophy. And we've touched on this over the classes over the last few weeks. Some very, very high points. And we are very lucky in this association. We have such deep philosophy. It is totally profound. But what you may find, what you may have observed, is if you are under the guidance of a very qualified guru and you are hearing the Vedas, hearing the transcendental teachings, then it's not so much of a lack of philosophy, but it's actually your human life. It's your human experience, which is the main obstacle between you and abiding in that transcendental consciousness. It's not a lack of having high philosophy. It's all your human samskaras. That's the main problem. So we want to look at a few of those today, little practical points, because this is where the rubber meets the road. We can have very high philosophy, but when it comes to just plain human interactions, then very quickly you'll see where you're at. Is it not so? So, one of the very common faults that we have is judging other people. And when we're judging other people, so often we're actually judging things within ourselves that we don't like. And so externally, we judge the other person for that, but really, if we're honest, we're like, I actually have that thing inside myself, and I don't like it about myself, so I'm just going to try and get rid of it in you, so then I don't have to acknowledge that it's actually in me. So judging it's a bit of a problem. And then also, an inference in judging is that, okay, this person has this fault, this and that, but I'm superior, I'm better, and I can judge because I'm in a superior position. Oh, ho, 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 look down on this person. So often, whatever we're accusing someone of doing, in that moment, we're guilty of that exact thing in that moment. Whatever we're pointing the finger at, we are doing the same thing so often in that moment. That's why we have the three fingers coming back to us. Very funny. And often in judging, if you go a little deeper, it's actually coming from a place of deep caring. Because if you don't actually care about someone or the situation, then it's just like water off a duck's back. Like, if you're walking down the street and someone says, oh, I don't like your haircut, but you don't know them, then you just brush it off. Oh, that was a little bit mean, but no problem. Keep on going. But if your partner, your family, your close friend says to you, well, that haircut's horrible, what are you doing? Oh, it burns like a knife to the chest. Because that person those people who are closest to us, then we get very fixed in the ways that they should interact to us. And we actually imprison them with a conception of how we think they should be. And total strangers, we give so much more freedom to them than the people closest to us. You may really notice this in relationships. You really imprison your partner in relationships. And if they don't do anything that pleases you with the conception that you have, then big problem coming. But just ordinary person down the street, or if you meet someone for the first time, there's like a curiosity. Oh, who is this person? I want to know more about you. But when we have known someone for a long time, okay, I know their favorite color, I know this is their favorite food, this and that. And yes, there's a relative truth in that, but it also really restricts our interaction with that person. And we lose this curiosity, this heart connection. Oh, who actually are you? And all we see is the filter of our previous experiences with that person, but yet ironically say, oh, I love this person. But what we really love is our ideas about them, and usually those ideas transform into who they could be, and then we know where that goes. So if we can see through our judgment, even just for a moment, just sense into that, just seeing through one's judgment just for a moment. Not getting all confused or anything about having judgment, just seeing through one's judgment, just acknowledging, oh yes, I judge this and that, I judge this person. Just acknowledging and just seeing through that. If you can really sense into that, then you'll notice there's a silence there. There's a peace. Because we learnt last time, the soul has 3 eternal qualities, and one of those is to know. So this eternal quality of Gyan Tritva, consciousness, there's like a silence there. And that silence can know so many things. This is an eternal property of the soul. It's very hard to know something as it is when you're just going around in circles in your mind with particular thoughts about a subject. So there has to be like an openness, a silence, and then we can really receive. It's a deeper level of experience. So you just try to feel into that for a moment. Because that silence, it's based in something deeper than our worldly judgmental experience, our worldly experience based upon all the impressions of our life in previous lives. There's a deeper silence there, and that silence is an eternal quality of Atma, Shakshi, witnesshood consciousness. I'm sure everyone here has touched upon this, maybe many times. You're just sitting down at the beach, sitting down at a lake in nature, having a cup of tea, or whatever you like to do. At any moment it can just arise. Very nice silence, and it's just like a breathing out. It feels nice, yeah? People know what I'm talking about, or am I just a mad person? I'm a mad person, but still, what I'm saying could be right. So even when you're doing your japa, just silence. And then from this place of silence, it's a very nice place to do japa from, rather than the monkey mind, because this silence is always present. You don't have to do anything to create it. This is an actual foundation of your experience. So all you have to do is notice it. Allow yourself to feel into it. It's not a complicated thing. You don't need to learn to do a headstand or read a million books. It's very natural. One of the obstacles in abiding in this silence, or being able to easily connect to it, is all these things we carry around in the subtle body. Thoughts, judgments, conceptions, all these things. So perhaps you know, when Krishna was 3 months old, little baby Krishna, he couldn't even turn over yet. The Supreme Parabrahman, creator of all that is here in Vrindavan on earth, like in the form of a little lala, little baby. And 3 months had come, and he was just about to turn over, just about to roll over in his cot. And so Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, they decided to have a festival, because Vedic people like festivals. You might have noticed it in India, always any chance to have a big festival. So then they organized the Uttana festival, and they had this festival outside, and they were preparing so many celebrations, had so many Brahmana priests there, invited so many people from the community, and little baby Krishna, he fell asleep. So then they got little baby Krishna and they put him in a cot under a cart, and little baby Krishna sleeping very nicely in the cot. You know, if you have a child, or you know someone who has a child, they very much like hearing the sound of their baby sleeping, just breathing in and out very softly. But how beautiful was Krishna sleeping? Infinitely more beautiful than any baby you've ever heard. So little baby Krishna sleeping very nicely under the cart. And this was on this day. The moon was in conjunction with the Rohini constellation, and Kamsa Maharaj, he had sent so many demons out to Vrindavan and the surrounding areas to try to find all the newborn males and kill them. So one demon came there, Shakatasura, and he entered into the cart. And then he thought, I will crush baby Krishna with the weight of this cart and kill him. And we see this as a bit of a theme. When any great personality comes to this world, and spreads the teachings, just love everyone, try to serve God. Then everyone just wants to kill them, crucify them, because we are mad people. And so it's the same with Krishna. So many times the demons tried to come to kill him. So he was sleeping very nicely in this cot, and then he woke up, and he wanted to drink the milk of Mother Yashoda, of his mother. And this demon thought, now is the time to kill him. So he was just about to press the cart down and kill him, and baby Krishna, just like babies kick with their little legs, he just kicked the cart, and the whole thing exploded. And there was a tremendous roar, and everyone was, oh, what's going on, what's going on? And they saw the cart had exploded into pieces. Everyone was so perturbed, baby Krishna, baby Krishna. So they all went running over there. Mother Yashoda was getting hysterical. And then Nanda Baba, Krishna's father, he picked up little baby Krishna. And little baby Krishna, Nanda Maharaj said, oh, this is by the grace of Lord Narayan. This is by the grace of God that Krishna is saved today. There's a whole lot of implications to that, but we won't go into it today. So then Nanda Baba, he handed little baby Krishna over to Mother Yashoda, and Mother Yashoda fed him breast milk. So all the motherly parental love that ever was, ever is, and ever will be in the future is liquefied into milk, and it resides in the breast of Mother Yashoda. All motherly parental affection, Krishna was drinking this milk, very much relishing it. So in Krishna Karamrita by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, all these killing of the demons, they have a metaphorical dimension to them. So the metaphorical dimension, this is also mentioned in Praktik Rasa Shuddhasini by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. The metaphorical meaning of Krishna killing Shakatasura is to remove, to kill all the things we carry around on us. Judgments, conceptions, criticism. It's like a cart of bricks we tow around with us everywhere. But if we take shelter of Krishna very easily, in a moment, he can remove these things. From a worldly point of view, it may take a little time, but very quickly, in comparison to how long we have been transmigrating from one species, one body to the next, one body to the next, just in a very short time, 1 life, 2 life, 3 lives, boop, all these things gone. So Krishna is very wonderful. This also signifies learning so many rules and regulations and just mechanically carrying them out. This is another burden we carry around with us. I need to learn this mantra, this sloka, and this and then I just go through it like a robot, but no feeling. Yes, that has its place, no problem with it, but also it can just be like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He threw his commentary of Navya Nyaya into the Ganga. Give up this logic. Give up this devotion empowered by just rules and regulations when the time is right. People are always trying to give us gifts, you know. And so, who doesn't like to receive a gift? Raise your hand. Everyone likes to receive a gift? Who likes to give gifts to themselves? It's nice, yeah? Buy a chocolate cake, piece of chocolate. So, perhaps you know, at the time of the Buddha, he was teaching, oh, you just do these meditation practices at home. And this wasn't very good for the business of the Brahmanas at the time, because people stopped coming to the temples and paying the Brahmanas so much dakshina, so much money in offerings to do the pujas and rituals upon their behalf. So the Brahmanas, they became quite furious at the Buddha. And there was one prominent Brahmana called Bhadrasena. So he went down to where the Buddha was staying, and he was swearing and cursing and very, very angry. And the Buddha was sitting down in a circle with some of his disciples, and came Bhadrasena swearing and cursing, you're blah, 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 blah. And the Buddha said, if you have some problem, please just sit down and we can talk about it. And Bhadrasena said, no, you're very intelligent. If I sit down, I'll end up becoming one of your disciples. I'm going to hold on to my anger. And then the Buddha said, you know, sometimes do people give you gifts? And he said, yes. And then he said, what if someone brings you a gift, but you don't accept that gift? And then Bajrasingh thought about it for a moment, and he said, well, the gift returns with whoever brought it. And then Buddha said, well, similarly, you're coming here with gifts of anger and hostility, but we're not taking these gifts, we're not receiving these gifts. And then Bajrasingh thought about it for a moment, and then he realized, oh, these gifts will stay with me. So then, funnily enough, he actually ended up becoming one of the prominent disciples of the Buddha. So people are always trying to give us gifts. Take this box of criticism, take this box of judgment, take this box of this and that, and we open it, oh, or even worse, we like to give ourselves gifts. Criticizing, judging, oh, what will I receive today? Open up the box, oh, another shit sandwich that I've given to myself. So, we're a bit like this, always giving ourselves gifts. Try to have more discernment about what gift you're giving to yourself. We can learn this from Bajrasingh's example. Because we're not the cause of our activities. Everything is going on by the movements of material nature. So we want to give up this ahankar, this false ego that I'm the controller, I'm the doer. Because if I'm the doer, then other people are the doer. But actually everyone's just shaped by these modes of material nature, shaped by their previous experience. So if we can understand that about ourselves, then we can very much more easily understand that about other people. And then you won't be in such a judging mind, because someone is just a product of the experiences they have had in life. So Atmavan Jagat, depending on our own state of mind, we project our own qualities onto our vision of the world. So whatever is our energetic state, whatever is our conception, we see through this filter and we project it onto reality. And then we think everything in reality is what I am seeing through my projection. This is the actual reality. And we very much forget that we're seeing everything through our own filter. So whatever is happening, it's just happening. You don't need to go into a big commentary about it, lose so much energy. It's just happening. And then whatever is happening, if you can just accept that, then paradoxically you can bring about more of a change. But if you're just trying to accept what's happening so you can then change it, it's not quite what I'm pointing to. It's a deeper level. And we should also understand that everyone's just searching for love. Everyone's searching for connection. And we search for that love and connection with the filter of the samskaras, of the impressions that we have had in life. So for some people, they only know how to seek connection through joining a gang or criminal activities, because that's the impressions they have in this life. But there's still the underlying theme, they just want to have connection. They just want to be in like-minded association. So people just naturally gravitate towards their own association of their own energetic state. I met this man who had been in prison 27 years. Maybe older than some of you in this audience, actually. A lot has happened in that time. Cell phones, internet. He knew nothing about any of that. And he actually stabbed 25 people in prison, but that's not even what he went into prison for. Bit of a funny story, depends on your sense of humor. But anyway, so he was telling me one day, this little mouse was coming into his cell, and he made friends with this little mouse, I'm not sure if any of you have seen The Green Mile. It's a movie, and there's little Mousy. So this little mouse was coming into his cell, and he made a little house for the mouse out of a little box and some clothing. And then he brought some canteen, and he was buying some seeds and whatnot to feed the mouse. And each day he'd count how many seeds the mouse was eating, and it was giving him great joy, because there's a natural propensity in the soul to want to serve and want to have a little loving relationship of exchange. So it was giving him such joy to have this little mouse companion. So it doesn't matter our situation, our heart can become very hard in nisarga, when we have an acquired nature that is removed from our natural loving state. We can be so conditioned and be quite divorced from our own soul and the natural qualities of the soul. But when that begins to thaw for a little, because that man, he'd been practicing meditation for 4 years, and it completely changed his life. Completely. He was a completely different person after practicing meditation. And that's how he could come back more closer to his natural state and just appreciate a little mouse coming into his cell. So, another story of a little mouse. One day there was a little mouse, and he lived in a stand of trees. A little intentional mouse permaculture community with his other mouse friends. And from time to time he used to hear like a roar in his ears, and he had a sound in his ears, and he'd say to his friends, his other mouse associates, "Do you hear that sound?" And they're like, no, we don't hear any sound, just forget it, what are you talking about? And so he just continued his life, gathering food, going around here and there, doing his little mousy business. But then again he'd hear the sound. Just ignore it, go away. But from time to time he would hear the sound. So one day it got to the point, I have to investigate, what is this sound? What is this roaring? So then he left the stand of trees, and he moved through the grass further than he'd ever gone before. And he was walking along, careful of the predators that could eat him. And then he heard, "Hello, brother." And he looked around, jumped out of his skin, he got a fright. And he said, "Who are you?" And that voice said, "I'm Brother Raccoon. Hello, little mouse. What are you doing here?" And little mouse said, "I've come to investigate the roar, the sound that I keep hearing." And Mr. Raccoon said, "Oh, that sounds the river." And little mouse said, "What's the river?" And Mr. Raccoon said, "I'll take you to the river. Follow me." So off they went through the long grass, further than little mouse had ever gone before. And lo and behold, they came to the river. And little mouse went on the riverbank, and it was so vast from his little mouse position, he couldn't even see the other side of the river. And he was astonished. Wow. He was looking at the currents flowing and the sticks moving down the river. How beautiful. And then little Mr. Raccoon, he said, "I have to go now, but I want to introduce you to a friend of mine." And then he heard another voice, "Hello, little mouse." And then that voice was Brother Frog. And Mr. Raccoon, he left. And so little mouse and Brother Frog, they started to talk together. And then Brother Frog said to little mouse, "Do you want some medicine?" And little mouse said, "Yeah, I want some medicine." So then Brother Frog said, "Crouch down really, really low. And then I want you to jump as high as you can." So little mouse, he crouched down as low as he could, and then he sprung up and he jumped high as he could. And when he jumped up, he saw in the mountains far, far, far into the distance. He was up in the air, and then he came back down and he landed in the river. And now he was all wet in the river. And he scurried back to the shore, and he said to Mr. Frog, "Hey, you tricked me. Now I'm all wet and soaking." And then Brother Frog said, but don't forget what you saw when you were up in the sky. And then little mouse thought about it and said, yeah, that was actually pretty amazing. I've never seen these mountains before. So then little mouse, he went back to his intentional mouse community in the trees, and he told his friends, I just went to the river and I saw the mountains. You guys should come with me. And his brothers and sisters saw, oh, he's all wet, but we don't think there's any river, and we don't think there's any mountains. We think you're a little bit crazy, actually. So you should just shut up and not disturb the peace and just get on with your business. But we do see you're all wet, so maybe someone tried to eat you, and it's the saliva of being in someone's mouth, but then they rejected you. So you must be poisonous, actually. So we should probably also reject you. So then little mouse, he was feeling a bit down. So then he decided, I want to visit the mountains. So then he packed his little bag and off he went, away from the mouse community, through the long grass, going further than he'd ever gone before. And then he heard, hello, brother. And he looked up, and there was an old mouse with glasses and a walking cane. And then he saw this mouse had a very nice house, and in this area there was so much grain and seeds and more food than he'd ever seen before. And then that mouse said, oh, the old mouse said to little mouse, you should come stay here the night, come for dinner. So he invited them into the house. They sat down and they had dinner together. And little mouse said, no, the old mouse said to little mouse, well, what are you doing? Where are you going? And he said, I want to go to the mountains. And old mouse said, oh, I wanted to go to the mountains once, but you know, there's many predators out there. There's many eagles and things that will want to eat you. So then I came this far, and I decided this is enough. So I just built my house here. There's plenty of food. You should just stay here with me, actually. Don't give up on the search for the mountains. So little mouse, he had dinner with his friend, but he decided, no, I'm going to carry on to the mountains. So then he left that place and he carried on solo journey further than he'd ever been before. And he was walking for some time, a little bit frightened. He's gone very far from his house now, frightened of predators, what could be out there in the unknown. And then, after some time, he said, he heard, hello, brother. And then he looked around, and there was a huge beast, a huge there was a wolf. There was a wolf lying down, and the wolf was sick, very sick. And little mouse said, oh, what's wrong with you? And the wolf said, I'm very sick, and I'm told the only cure is an eye from a mouse. Little mouse was shaking. And then he thought, this wolf is a great being. How can I let this being die? So then he got his eye and he gave it to the wolf. And now the wolf was healed, and he said, where are you going, little mouse? And he said, I want to go to the mountains. And the wolf said, okay, I can take you some of the way. So follow me. You walk under me so predators can't see you from above. So off they went, Brother Wolf and Little Mouse. And they were walking for some time, and then Wolf said, this is as far as I'm going. The rest of the way you'll have to go by yourself. I wish you the best. So off went Mr. Wolf. And so Little Mouse, he was carrying on for some time. The scenery was changing, the environment was changing, all new scenes and vistas he'd never seen before. And then he heard, hello, brother. And he looked around, and there was this huge being panting, sighing on his belly. It was Mr. Buffalo. And he said, what's your name? And he said, I'm Mr. Buffalo. And he said, you don't look very well. What's happening? And he said, I'm very sick, and I'm told the only cure is an eye from a mouse. Little mouse was thinking, I've only got one eye left. What to do? But Mr. Buffalo is a great being. I can't let this great being die. So then he got his little paw and he took out his eye and he gave it to Brother Buffalo. And Brother Buffalo, he was healed. So then Brother Buffalo said, where are you going? And he said, I want to go to the mountains. And Brother Buffalo said, I'll take you as far as I can take you. You walk under me so the predators in the air can't see you. So off they went, Brother Buffalo and Little Mouse. And the ground was shaking with the huge feet of Brother Buffalo for Little Mouse, such big vibrations. And so they were walking, and the path was getting more mountainous, more rocks. And Brother Buffalo said, this is as far as I can take you. So Little Mouse thanked him, and he carried on his journey, all alone. There wasn't much grass now, there wasn't much protection, and he could feel he didn't have eyes, so he was sensing the rest of the way. And he could feel the eagles in the sky, circling above, far, far above in the sky. And sometimes he could feel their shadows come overhead. But he was determined to get to the mountains. So he was going along the track, sensing his way with his little mouse whiskers. Further and further and further up the mountain he was going. But then he could feel those shadows were getting closer and closer and closer. And he was determined, I have to get to the mountain. I have to get to the mountain. And he, with all his heart, with all his effort, I have to get to the mountain. But he could feel the shadows of the eagles circling above closer and closer and closer. And he was running, and then he felt the claws of an eagle sink into his skin, and the eagle teared him apart, and everything went black. Everything went dark. Everything went silent. And then Little Mouse, he opened his eyes. And he looked around, and he was up a tree. He'd never been this high before, and he could see so far from being in the tree, and he saw the leaves, the branches, and then he heard a voice, hello, brother. And he looked down, and it was Brother Frog. And Brother Frog said, it's been a long time. I'm glad to see you again. And as Little Mouse was looking down, he noticed he has feathers and he has wings. And then Brother Frog said, oh, by the way, you have a new name. Your new name is Eagle. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, if you want to live, you have to die. And God is not an object of your sense perception. Actually, I have a nice poem for this little part. This poem's called I Am Beginning to Understand by an Islamic mystic. Slowly, I am beginning to understand that I cannot see you with my eyes, but only with my heart. For so long, I have been trying to catch a glimpse of you, staring madly into the middle distance. Now effortlessly, in moments you are here, my heart empties into you, and I am no more. So, in order to live, you have to die We have to give up all this conditioning, all this judgment, all this false ego, all who we think that we are, and be born again in spirit. Gurudev gives us this gift, and then you can get the bird's eye view over reality, and you'll be reborn in spiritual consciousness. So this is a nice little story. Kirtan? Let's digest this with a little bit of the holy names.
Oh, maybe instead of the apparatus it would fit.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama
Krishna says, 10th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, Moranam Chaivyasmi Guyanam. Of all secret things, I am silence. So in those moments, they may be fleeting and brief, or you may have the ability to drop into that for prolonged period. That sense of silence, you're touching upon the abhas of Bhagavan, you're touching upon God. That's why it feels so nice. Just like an exhale out. Feels good, yeah? Does that not feel good to anyone? So, in Psalms in the Bible, Psalms, it says, "Be still and know I am God." So, when we're not lost in the mind's chaos, then we can touch in upon that silence. And this silence that I'm pointing towards, it's not an emptiness of mind. It's an ever-present silence that's there even when the mind has activity. Because the silence is always there. You just have to allow yourself to feel into it. How can you listen to Krishna when you're absorbed in your own monkey mind? How can you listen to the teachings of Gurudev when the mind's blah 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 about this person, about that person? So the mind is one's friend as well as one's enemy. The mind is the friend of those who have learnt to control their mind or befriend their mind. And the mind acts like an enemy for those who are not able to control it, who just follow the dictates of the mind. So this sense of silence, try to just feel into it for a moment. Beyond all the judging and the ideas and the conceptions that we have. You know, because even in conversation, we're only listening until the other person stops, and then we can put forward our agenda. So we're not really listening to anyone. What does it mean to listen to another person from a place of silence? Where you're not just there trying to push your own agenda on someone. Because everyone just wants connection. Even Krishna wants connection with you. It's a completely different way to interact with the world. You know, also feel into this as a hypothesis. There's no truth in thought. Do you realize anything through thought? This is something for you to explore in your own experience. Because realization, it's not a mental process. It happens in the entirety of your being. And the one instrument of the Atma is the physical body and the subtle body. So when you really deeply realize something, it's an experience of the entirety of your field. It's not just up here in the head. It's just content knowledge. So, just like in a very cold environment, water can freeze and turn into ice. This is called nisarga, an acquired nature. But when the sun comes out and the rays of the sun touch that ice, slowly, slowly it begins to thaw, and it turns back into its natural state of pure, clear water. So due to our aversion to looking at God, to serving God, to wanting to have a relationship with God, our vision has turned towards self-satisfaction, being enamored with our own materialistic ideas and putting ourselves in the center of our existence. So this is nisarga. This is an acquired nature. This is not our natural state. So then the heart becomes very hard, like a block of ice. And when the heart is like a block of ice, it's not nice for you and it's not nice for anyone around you, because this is not our natural state. So by turning our vision back towards lovely Sri Krishna, this is like the sun, and slowly, slowly, under the guidance of Guru, the thawing of the heart takes place. Sometimes in this thawing of the heart, big icebergs come in the form of anartas, unwanted things in the heart, but this is part of the process. Sometimes the path forward seems to go back. But our natural state is very soft, it's very loving. These are the qualities of God. And to have sambandha gyan, to see everything in relation to God. God's perfect and His creation is also perfect. So to get out of this energetic dynamics of being always in resistance to everything, you're also being in resistance to God. So we're always engaged, on the one hand, for those spiritual practitioners trying to reach towards God, but we're also trying to push Him away of all the things we're in aversion to. So it can be problematic. Oh, so I have one little book that I got in Vrindavan many years ago. I've stopped printing it now. It's 12 little poetic utterances from Vallabhacharya. The book's called Loving Wisdom. And there's one that's my favorite, so I just want to share that now. Hari is going to do whatever he wants, according to his play. So stop worrying immediately. To remain in the blessed state of remembrance, every situation must be endured, assimilated, and transformed into a lila occurrence. So everything that's going on, like I quoted that poem earlier, or reference to it, everything is like a master chess piece in our life, and it's serving us in some way. Even if the same lesson is giving us suffering over and over again, it's just trying to actually illuminate a lesson that needs to be integrated. And the more we are in resistance to that, you may push it away, but only for some time. And then the same wine will come, but just in another bottle. These things just keep following us around. So by stepping out of this energetic dynamics of resistance, then it's easier to remain connected to that field of silence and assimilate these deeper lessons that life is trying to present to us. Because we're so addicted to thinking we know everything. Socrates was known to be the smartest man because he said, I don't know anything. And we may think, oh, that's a nice saying, but, you know, I have a PhD, I went to university, so actually, technically, I'm a lot smarter than Socrates. But this was actually a sign of his great intelligence. Because as soon as we think we know something, think we have things all figured out, you know, mostly it's just intellectual concepts. So we're just like on the hamster wheel up in the mind. And you can lose a sense of awe and wonder and connection to a greater reality. Like in modern times, very soon, every single part of the planet is going to be GPSed. There's going to be no unknown location upon the surface of the earth. So just think about what that does to one's consciousness. There's no unexplored area. Everything's known, because we're very much addicted to categorizing things away in our intellectual mind. We've got one box for this, one box for that, one box, maybe 3 boxes for God, believe, don't believe, or question mark. So we file things away in all these little boxes and we think, oh, I have it figured out. But actually, these are just intellectual concepts. Realized wisdom is something much deeper than that. So often with our human limitations, each one has a unique package. Sometimes we don't know what to do. So then we engage in an endeavor to try and rectify our problematic situations in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Of course, it's very good and natural. But for very deep-rooted samskaras, we don't know what to do. And maybe you can reflect in your own life. You've got some deep patterns that keep happening, some relationship or something like this with someone, and you don't know what to do. And you think, usually we think, if only they would change, then the world, everything would be all right. Or an extended version of that. If only the whole world would change, then everything would be all right. Funny creatures we are. But what does it feel like to fully surrender to the fact, I don't know what to do about this situation? I fully don't know what to do. If you really go deep into that, I don't know what to do, like really fully accept it, there's actually a peace there. You'll feel and sense into there's a peace. Because you're fully accepting, I don't know what to do. So there's no resistance to reality whatsoever. Whatever this, I fully don't know what to do. So sometimes we think, to touch upon this silence, to be abiding in this peaceful state, I need to just arrange so many things. But this is a bit of a 180-degree approach from another direction. Just fully accept you don't know what to do. And actually, this is probably a lot more practical. And a more innate openness to a deeper kind of wisdom comes online. And part of that can also be accepting, I don't know what to do, so I should take advice from people who do know what to do, such as Guru, Sastra, the teachings. Because we can go many decades trying to arrange so many nice situations for ourselves, but it doesn't work out. And still we have this dogged propensity, if just one more thing's changed, then it will work out. We're pretty stupid, really, when you think about it. So we have to just acknowledge, hey, this is not working. I've tried so many things. I really don't know what to do. And just try to be with that. And not from a place, I don't know what to do, and then somebody's going to figure it out. So, no, that's not what that's the same energy. Try to go deeper.
Before you go on, can I ask?
If it's a brief question.
Because you said you go, you say I don't know what to do. It works magic. But you said I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. It is not like self-hypnosis in a negative way. And one thing is the recognition. I don't know what to do. But to go deeper on, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I think there's something wrong about it.
What do you think is wrong about it?
To insist, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. It's not the same than, oh my God, what I'm going to do. It's not the same. Or it's not, what was the meaning? I hear you say you go deeper in, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Please, can you explain what you mean with that?
We can talk more about this over lunch. Try to get out of your head and get into your sensing field. Being in the hamster wheel of the mind, you'll never find any solutions. You'll never get any realization there. We'll talk more over lunch.
It's not the question. It's not the question about the what, but at the how. How?
See, this is the thing. The mind always wants a how. But there is no how. If there was a magic prescription, I would have sold it to you for a very big price already. But there is no magic prescription. There never has been and there never will be, because each person is different. Yes, there's universal teachings that will be helpful for everyone, but for our own individual journey, there's certain nuances that you'll have to find your own way. Srila Prabhupada says you have to fly your own plane. So even all of us who are under shelter of Guru, well, so many of us are under shelter of Gurudev, he's giving us different personal instructions because we have different psychology, different nature, different backgrounds. Yes, there's some commonality in certain instructions, but each person, we're our own little nutcase. So he's giving us some very nice advice to help us all progress individually. So if there was just one teaching, one book, we'd all be doing it and we'd all be happy. But the reality on earth is it's not like that. So there's one thing to be in the silence and try to be observing from a removed place. And that can be very good and it has its place, but it can also be a kind of avoidance, a kind of safe spot to be disconnected from life from and just be in this kind of, it's actually like that middle stage, the trees and mountains cease to be. So you're trying to kind of artificially just be in some removed state from life, which can be very helpful, particularly if you've had a lot of trauma or something, to disassociate from that, but it's not necessarily the place to abide forever. So to be observing and interacting with life, but have your whole field of experience arising in that silence and be connected to that. It's like that phase of observation is like a perfume that permeates all aspects of your life, your entirety of your being. It's much different to just trying to be some removed guy in the back of your head watching every little thing. It's very different to be engaged in life from a silent place of being the observer, but also being fully present. And of course all this takes practice. Like when you're learning how to walk, you fall down, you get back up again, you fall down, you get back up again. So this is a process. To really get a sense of balance, you have to fall so many times. And I'm not saying everyone needs to do that. Depends how karmically heavy or light you are. Yeah. So to be without anxiety in imperfection, because we all have so many imperfections, and then we go into an oscillating state of mind trying to rectify this, and then it becomes like quicksand, and it absorbs our awareness more and more and more, and next thing you know, you're being completely lost. So to accept our humanity, but at the same time being fully present of what you need to do to transcend that lower level of consciousness. So Jesus says, only he who loses his life will find it. So does anyone have a resolution for our person up the tree holding on with his teeth? The koan at the start of the class. You surrender. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. And so for those of you who weren't here, at the start of the class, I gave a little metaphor or analogy. I'm not sure what the right term is. Maybe the grammar Nazis can correct me. But you're up a tree and you're holding onto a branch of a tree, and that branch of the tree is overhanging a cliff, and you're holding that branch with your teeth, and your hands are bound behind your back, your feet are bound, and if you let go, you'll fall to your death. And along comes a monk and says, say the one true thing that will save your life. What can you say? soon as you say something, you're going to fall to your death. Yes, but you're also going to die. So,
No, you can do it with the teeth. That's why.
you know, there's monks in monasteries who meditate upon this for years and years and years. These are actually to elicit thinking of the conditioned mind, because you can't solve it. I didn't ask for an answer. I asked for a resolution. So, everyone actually knows the answer. As soon as I say it, the answer arises in you. But who wants to admit it? Does anyone want to admit it? Shamananda has basically said it. The resolution is, you're going to die. Accept it. And when you fully accept that, and that brief moment between the branch and the bottom of the cliff, you'll live for the first time in your life. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, if you want to live, you have to die. Give up all this misidentification, this avidya. And then, for the first time in your life, Haribol, splat. You'll live. So, just like the little mouse, to sense into the greater reality, he had to give everything up. His eyes, his vision, how he saw the world, but he sensed it with his heart. So just like him, sensing that there was the river was calling in the beginning. Everyone here is hearing the call. Who's calling? Krishna. So everyone here on some varying degrees, Krishna's calling. Follow that with all your heart. And then if you're very lucky, you'll die, but you'll live in spirit. So we're not talking about a physical death. It may or may not happen, doesn't matter. But we're talking about, so many traditions have this conception of being reborn in spirit. And this is our true nature. It's not an idea, it's not a sentiment, it's not a philosophy, it's not a belief system. When the ice of the heart begins to thaw, the natural state's revealed. And that is to be in loving service and connection to a higher reality. And there's nothing to believe about it. It's very simple. Just like you take a good Ayurvedic medicine, doesn't matter what you believe in it, it has its effect. Belief can have its place, but it's not what I'm pointing to right now in this context. So, there's no truth superior to Krishna. Everything rests upon him like pearls on a thread. This is a real pearl of wisdom to come to this realization. And if everything is resting upon Krishna, why do you need to be in conflict with reality? Krishna is sending you all these great gifts. You can receive gifts from Krishna. Krishna's gifts are very nice if you can realize it on a deeper level. So, all fear comes from forgetfulness of our common guardian. Our common guardian is Ishvara, the Supreme Controller. So when you have some realization of this, then you don't need to expend all your energy running around here and there trying to be the controller. Krishna doesn't say in the Bhagavad Gita, be the controller, arrange everything. But we have this dogged propensity to do that, you know. When you're listening to someone, or there's something you don't like about someone, and you want to change that thing about that person, and you may engage in some practice to try not to change. I should just tolerate, being blah blah blah, so many things. You can learn to manage that propensity to want to change someone, but still it's there. For some people it can be very overt, other people they learn to manage it and it's below the surface. But still, people and things are the way they are. And it just creates so much conflict for ourselves when we are trying to change other people, when we're trying to change reality. So you can just see when you're engaged in a situation, how much am I invested and wanting to change the situation, wanting to change that person. If you're really willing to be honest with yourself, you'll be like, wow, I'm a freaking control freak. Like, I've really got a God complex. I want to be the supreme Ishvara and control everything and everyone. I'll speak for myself. I don't know about you guys, probably all enlightened. So, if you're really willing to be honest with yourself, you can see these things. And then if you're really willing to be honest, it's easier for you to connect to the silence and not be caught in the energetic dynamics of it, because that also feeds the resistance. So just trust in Krishna. Everything's perfect. It doesn't mean that we can't be engaged in trying to bring some upliftment to the world, but doing it not from a place of resistance, a place from acceptance, is far more productive, and it will help you and everyone around you. So that about concludes the talk for today. Thank you for patiently listening. We have one more talk on Friday, and this will be the end of this series. And then our Guru's coming. First talk will be on Sunday, so then you'll be able to really hear some real wisdom. So I invite you all to come along for that. There'll be 3 days of public programs. And Friday's class will be a special class. Also no tattva gyan, no philosophy. So you can all rest your weary minds again, okay? I'll just end with one little poem from Rumi. God's love and mercy is everywhere. We just have to open ourselves to it. It's just like noticing there's always silence. You don't need to have a big philosophy, or it's just very simple. Just open yourself to it. On a day when the wind is perfect, the sail just needs to be opened and the love starts. Today is such a day. Hare Krishna. So just a couple of announcements. We have one friend at the back who's doing a survey on he's doing a PhD, and he wants to do some survey if you're willing to fill out his form on yoga and tourism. There's no religious questions. You don't need to put your name or your bank account details or anything like that. So if you're willing, it'll help our brother out very much to fill out his forms. We have some very delicious prasadam today, blessed food, and we also have a book table, deeper knowledge there. If people can contribute to the cost of the food, this really helps us out a lot as well. And I'll see you on Friday. We'll have a nice little kirtan now to open our sails to catch the wind of love, and then we'll hand out the forms while we get lunch ready to be served. Hare Krishna.